Major underwriting for A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse was provided by the Baton Rouge Convention and Visitors Bureau. In Baton Rouge, our past is your present. Baton Rouge, authentic Louisiana at every turn. And People's Drugstores, serving South Louisiana for generations. George and Shirley Piku are proud supporters of A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse. And by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Our mission is to tell Louisiana's story to the world. And by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism.
Where you have this architecture, history, music.
And the bittersweet cry of the blues.
Especially the blues.
There you go.
How about a dozen?
Red beans and rice.
We rolling, y'all.
We're a nation of immigrants, a country with roots in other soils. Nowhere is that more true than in the country of Louisiana. I'm Chef John Folse, inviting you to tune in to A Taste of Louisiana and a new series dedicated to our food heritage. Louisianians are descendants of 7 primary nations that have influenced every dish we cook today. Welcome to A Taste of Louisiana. All right, how y'all doing, guys? Nice to have you, Dennis. You doing all right? Hey, how you doing, David? Y'all absolutely wonderful. Thanks so much. Y'all, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Y'all doing okay? Huh? Hello, how are y'all? Y'all, it's really wonderful to have y'all here in my kitchen today. And wow, do we have great food and great history to share with you today. In fact, we're talking about probably the first Americans on this continent. One of the largest settlements and I guess since the beginning of history in what is now North America. You're going to be shocked. And plus, we're feeding you good food too. Very good food, I should mention. So y'all just sit right there. While the Native Americans of the Northeast are recognized for their contributions to the first Thanksgiving, Louisiana was home to perhaps the oldest settlement of Native Americans on the continent. Poverty Point was first discovered by Samuel Lockett in 1873. Let's hear from Jon Gibson, the foremost authority on Poverty Point. When Columbus arrived in the Americas in 1492, Native Americans had been living in what is now Louisiana for more than 3,500 years. At the time Ramesses II was ruling Egypt, Moses was leading the Israelites from bondage, and the Phoenicians were trading along the Mediterranean, Native Americans were thriving in Louisiana's Mississippi Valley. Poverty Point, located in northeastern Louisiana near present-day Delhi, was a prehistoric permanent village on a bluff overlooking the Mississippi River.
Poverty Point was built sometime between 1730 and 1350 or so BC. That's 3,500 plus years ago. So it's a very early community, one of the largest, it is the largest early earthwork in the Americas, in all Americas as far as we know.
A hallmark of Poverty Point was long-distance trading. Trade routes extended throughout the Ouachita, Ozark, and Appalachian Mountains, as well as the upper Mississippi Valley and the Great Lakes region, with all trade lines converging here at Poverty Point.
We know that Poverty Point people were vast traders and that their trade net involved much of the eastern and possibly much of the United States, because we have obsidian from the Rocky Mountains that's in here too. What they were trading for all these incoming goodies is still a mystery. We've not found Poverty Point artifacts or anything that looks like it has emanated from Poverty Point in Illinois, in Missouri, in Florida, but we find materials from those parts of the world here at Poverty Point. I suspect it's something intangible.
This area teemed with wild plants, game, and fish, providing a bountiful year-round harvest. It is doubtful that these people were ever farmers. The natives hunted with the javelin, atlatl, and knives.
There are a lot of fish. In fact, fish was the predominant thing that seems to have been eaten, along with some of the aquatic plants. And Poverty Point, of course, sits right on the bluff edge. The Mississippi Valley is all to the east of us here. It's just a vast lowland swamp. every pothole and every stream bank and everything is just laden with herbs and plants and roots and stuff like that. These people largely were root gatherers, root diggers, and they were fishermen setting their nets in the rivers, their traps in the rivers, in the Bayou Mason, in the big lake that may have lain alongside Poverty Point. But they had to feed a lot of people. We estimate there was somewhere between 2,000 and 2,600 people living at Poverty Point, and that they would have consumed a lot of food.
Houses were small circular structures about 13 to 15 feet in diameter. The Native Americans built mounds around their town, including one in the shape of a bird with outstretched wings and tail. Pits at the site suggest that there may have been fish ponds or farms where fish were kept until needed.
One thing that does point to me that this was a residential site as well as probably a ceremonial site is the fact on all the giant ridges out here, both front and back are lined with garbage deposits, thick garbage deposits, black garbage deposits, greasy garbage deposits. So I think that's a good indicator that, that people were living here in a large number of people.
Perhaps most fascinating was the ingenious use of hearths and earth ovens for cooking. The oven was a hole dug in the ground,
usually packed with somewhere between 40 and 80 clay balls, which are heated, but not just any clay balls. I think if the recipe called for cooking for 45 minutes at 375 degrees, they had to use a particular shape of clay ball, one that we call cylindrical with lateral grooves. If they needed lower temperature, but more prolonged temperature, they used a biconical object, which is a different shaped object.
The Native Americans of Poverty Point in Louisiana were cooking, regulating heat, and thriving 1,500 years before Jesus walked the earth. What an incredible civilization they were. Wow, you know, I am always fascinated when I hear anything about Poverty Point to think 2,000 or 2,500 people living in this area 3,500 years ago. They had to be fed. They were fishermen. Can you imagine going out onto the rivers of the Mississippi Valley and fishing enough food for 2,500 people? But hey, we know they were eating well. And y'all, here's one of those little stones right here. This is one of the Poverty Point stones, biconical shape. You see, it looks like two little little moon spaceships or something here. I'm not sure exactly what it is. But anyway, I've cooked with them. They are absolutely unbelievable in their retention of heat. Incredible. And we'll talk about that a little bit more with a couple of my guests. In fact, I have some very special people here today. Jon Gibson is the guy you just saw, and John's right here. And of course, he's one of the foremost archaeologists. And I have Dennis LaBatt right in the middle of Poverty Point as well, and then David Griffin right on the end. I think you and I did a pretty good job cooking, didn't we?
I think so, yes.
We fired up the pit, and I think I was amazed by it all. And then, did y'all hear the music? Hey, we have to give these folks a hand. The songs. Donna and Elisabeth Pierite. I tell you, the costumes are just gorgeous. So thank y'all so much, and thank all of you for being here with us. Now, what could we possibly cook when we talk about seafood? We talk about going out into the wilderness of Louisiana. We have such a sportsman's paradise here. Anything's possible, but we know that frog legs, oh yeah, we know that frog legs were one of the delicacies of Poverty Point, and we also know that frog legs were discovered here many years later by the French, and then it became a teeming industry shipping frog legs back to France. And today, of course, we try to keep as many of them as we can. And take a look at this. I used some of the smaller ones today. I used a smaller frog leg today. I didn't want to bring out some of the bigger ones for you. What do you mean? Who just said that? Huh? Y'all, hey, and so tender. Most people around the country, when I show frog legs this size to chefs, they said, you can't, no way you can eat this, much too tough. Well, I tell you what, in Louisiana, these are just as tender as butter right here. And how do we cook them? Well, of course, they could have cooked them in the in-earth ovens, as you just saw a minute ago. But the way I've done it, I'm going to marinate them a little bit, and I'm gonna season them up with a touch of this wonderful Creole mustard. This is the modern way. I'm going to you don't mind if I put a touch of beer in them, huh? just a little bit, you know. This is kind of the Cajun influence. Yeah, this is the Cajun influence right here. A little bit sauce, and of course you can put a little Worcestershire or one of those in there. Some nice spice. I'm gonna put some cayenne, and then of course a little bit of a little egg. Now, David, when we were cooking, have you found any evidence of any seasonings that they might have used as y'all did digs out there? Do you know of any flavors they may have used?
Yes, sir. Wild onions.
Yes, sir. No, just yes will be okay.
Oh.
I'm going to call you yes, sir. You're the expert. So I'm sorry, what was that?
Wild onions would be one.
Yeah, wild onions, great. Well, I know that there's tubers in Louisiana that bring a lot of spice out, of course, salt. There's a lot of salt up and down this valley of ours, of course. So, y'all, I have my beer, and you don't have to use beer. Throw water in there or wine. And then, of course, the Creole mustard. Now, I've taken the frog legs and I put them in a little bit milk because milk has a kind of a tendency to tenderize the meat. So you can use buttermilk, or of course you can just use this alone. Now, as far as for the batter, I'm using a corn flour here, and the corn flour is kind of a triple ground cornmeal, very nice for frying and coating fish and oysters. Of course, I need to put some cayenne pepper in here, salt, and I always say season to taste because I never know what your taste is versus my taste. So just go ahead and season to taste, and then I'm going to take this nice corn flour and I'll put it into. This is left over from Poverty Point, man. Yeah, this is. The paper bag. Y'all did find some of these, didn't you? You see how primitive I'm cooking today? I had a need to cook primitive. So I'm going to put my fish fry. Everybody who's ever cooked at a camp knows exactly what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go with the frog legs right out of the milk. And I've cut them into little. Look, I'm not frying that whole frog, y'all. I know I was freaking you out there for a minute, but I'm gonna put them into this nice beer and Creole mustard batter, and then down into my bag here, and into that nice seasoned corn flour, just absolutely wonderful. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to shake this around just a little bit. And as I'm shaking this, I just have to ask John about these, the mounds. We were talking so much early on about those mounds and not quite knowing exactly the purpose of that settlement. Was it, we think it may have been for some religious significance, or it may have been strictly trade. Have we narrowed it down any? What was the purpose of the whole place?
Well, John, that seems to be what compelled the mounds to start with, some kind of religious significance, because they're spaced with certain distances, and they have certain dimensions that have religious significance, not only here in Louisiana, not only in North America, but throughout Central and South America as well.
And to think that the trade routes went all the way possibly as far as the Rocky Mountains, and there was no communication, that at least no modern day communication. It certainly had communication, and the ability to get from one place to the other, that they would have come that far.
Yes.
So anyway, y'all, so the frog legs are in. I'm frying them at about 350, and they're going to fry just till they float. Of course, they're going to have a nice crispy coating, just like this. Take a look at what they look like here. I have a nice little small one here, nice and delicate, full of flavor. I could dip it in a remoulade sauce. I could put it in a cocktail sauce, serve it with ketchup, or I could just go out on the porch and consume the whole thing with absolutely nothing but the flavor that's on it. It's absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to let this fry here for just a second. And y'all, we know that ancient people were hunters and they were gatherers, and we know that they cooked meat over open fires. But the people of Poverty Point were ingenious in their use of these earth ovens, cooking with clay balls. And David Griffin and I tried our hand, and I'm going to say we did pretty good at hot rock cooking at Poverty Point. Y'all take a look. David, I'm holding in my hand here two of the most important discoveries, I think, at Poverty Point, these little cooking stones. Tell me a little bit about them, and where did they come from?
Well, we do find them here on the site in the occupation areas, and they were made from just this mason-rich topsoil, silty, loamy dirt. They're not really made of clay at all.
And what was the purpose of them? I see they're all different shapes and sizes.
We're not exactly sure. We do find the finger groove marks on them, and it could have been for specialized cooking, because the more surface you have on an object, the more heat it radiates from it.
Now this was one of these ovens were found in the center of every hut here at Poverty Point. And how would they have cooked in here? I see that you have a little tray of some kind with a piece of fish in it. Tell me a little bit about this.
Now we have a cattail mat that protects the fish.
This is cattail right off the river.
Yes, sir. Right? And we have sycamore leaves that also blankets the fish to protect it from the heat that's radiated from the hot objects in the pit.
Right. So no matter what they were cooking, whether it was meat or fish or duck or whatever it was, they'd wrap it in this.
Yes,
and then they would secure it with one of these little, some little twigs or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And depending on how many rocks or what the thickness of the meat, that they'd actually create this to put it on top of the rocks.
Yes,
there, right?
sir.
Okay, well, show me how you did it.
Okay, what we would do is, of course, we have the heated objects here. We would lay this on top of some blanket of the heated objects.
Right directly on top of those hot rocks.
Right, directly on top.
I like your spatula there. Is that a deer?
It's bone. It's a shoulder blade. And what we would do is, of course, rake the hot objects on top of this.
Right.
Yes.
Now, how long would a piece of fish like this in that cattail mat actually take to cook?
About 15 to 20 minutes.
Is that right?
You're looking at temperatures of 500, 600 degrees in there right now.
Gee. Now, was this common at most sites, most early prehistoric sites, this type of cooking?
Yes, sir. Even before Poverty Point, they used usually hot rock cooking.
Right.
They were using natural stone, but in this area devoid of natural stone, they actually used a substitute.
They actually made it themselves. That's amazing.
Yes,
and
sir.
every one of these rocks having a different shape or size obviously held more heat. Yeah. So if I had a leg of venison in here and I had 10 people coming for dinner, I could just pile those rocks on it. Now, what do you do? Just cover it up at this point? How do you?
And what we would do is we'd finish covering it up with these hot objects.
Right.
And then we rake dirt on top of it, and it's like a crock pot. It's absentee cooking. You just rake the dirt on it. The heat from the objects will heat it.
Right.
You leave it.
Well, great. Well, we'll cover it up, and and I tell you what, I can't wait to taste it. So by this time, it ought to be really. Now, the heat is amazing coming out of that.
Still coming up out of it. Yes, sir.
Yeah. There's our little package. Look at the steam coming out of that fish. Huh?
Be good and cooked.
Let me see if I can hold. Let me see if you can hold it up here, and I'll see if I can get it.
Is it hot?
Okay, and then. All right. Delicious. Oh, smoky too. Very good. Very good. I wasn't doing nothing. I wasn't doing a thing. Oh, those frog legs are great. Fresh Louisiana frog legs. Y'all, you hear the beautiful music. I tell you, Donna and Elisabeth, they're singing the songs of the time of the green corn. Tell us a little bit about that. What exactly does that mean?
Now is the time of the green corn for the Tunica Biloxi of Marksville, Louisiana. We prepare the corn the day before, and then early in the morning the next day we bring the corn to our ancestors. And we continue to do this. Years ago we had what was called the Fête du Blé, which is the French words for grain festival, but actually it meant the corn festival. It's a very private ceremony for the family, and it combines both the native spiritualism and Catholicism. Is it a springtime ritual? Is it an annual ritual any month of the year? It usually begins the June 23rd for various tribes around June 23rd, which is the time of the or the beginning of the summer solstice. Right. Until I want to say perhaps to September, but for us it's soon, very soon. Right. We're going to. Well, great. Wonderful songs. You do eat frog legs, don't you? Wonderful songs and great sound. Thank you all so very much. Huh? Now, look, I'm going to give you all each one because I have other friends out here. Michael, come take this and pass this around to the tables over there. You hand that out. Let me tell you what we've done. We've been doing this for so long, and in fact, in a lot of early
American cuisine, especially Creole cuisine, they took oysters and they did what was so special for family gatherings and for social events. They did the roasted oyster. And the way they would do it, they would take the nice Louisiana American oyster species, which we have a lot of on the Gulf of Mexico, and these are ready to go. But what they would do would be to take rock salt. Now, the Native Americans actually, part of the trading of the French and the early explorers coming over was the salt trade, right? I mean, that was for preserving as well as flavor, but mainly preserving hides. So we're going to add the water to the rock salt, and this is going to put a much higher salt content into the oyster. So I'm going to put all of these in here and just start to let them sit. Now, if you let them sit for a couple of hours, they're going to pick up a little bit more salt. They've already been washed, and then they would go into the coals of a fire, or today they could go into ovens. And John, another question about Poverty Point, the excavations. How much has been excavated on that historic site, and how much more needs to be excavated?
Actually, less than 0.3% has been professionally excavated and we're talking about over 100 years worth of excavation. So, very minuscule amount compared to how large the site is. And if the rate at which it's been excavated in the past were to continue, it would take 2,500 years to dig the site. 2,000
years to get. I would think it'd be about half done based on all that's going on out there. Unbelievable. 2,000 years more. Who knows what we're going to find out there? We hadn't found any human remains, so we don't know what they did with their dad. Over 2,000 people. We find, as we say, garbage and cooking stones and things like that, but there's so much more to be learned there. So anyway, y'all, the oysters are nice and salty. We're going to put them on a bed of rock salt. As I say, you can go right into the coals of fire, on your barbecue pit, go onto the grill, and these are going to go in my 400-degree oven. I have some in there already, but I'm going to make a little bit of a quick sauce for you here. I'm going to put a little garlic in my butter. I have a little butter here. I'm going to put some garlic into it. I'm going to put some shallots. I'm going to put some green onions in here, a little lemon, and we're going to let this saute. And this will become the butter sauce for the oysters. And look, I got a gift y'all this morning, a wonderful carved spoon from my friends over at Poverty Point with the owl. The owl is a very important symbol over there. Y'all found a lot of the little carved owls, right? Did y'all ever figure out what they were for or what they were using them for?
Really ornamental objects.
Yeah, just ornamental probably. So I'm going to put the, you see I'm cooking with it, so let them know that I cooked with this wonderful spoon over there. So now I have the garlic butter. I'm going to let this sit here for just a second. I'm going to go into the oven with this, and as I say, I have some already done, so I can pull one of them out of that oven. It only takes about 8 minutes, and they're totally done. So I'll put this here. Wait till you see what this looks like, y'all. They pop right open, and the oysters will have liquid. The oysters will have liquid seeps. What did I do there? Seeping around the edges. And the oyster, yeah, hey, this is a real kitchen. We work here. Huh? We work here, absolutely. Huh? The oysters start to seep. Take a look at this right here. You're going to have to get really close. You're going to have to get really close in here. See all the seeping? These oyster shells are very hot too. But I can put my knife in there. Take a look at that. See how steaming and beautiful this is. Absolutely fantastic. One final question, y'all. Poverty Point open to educational seminars and things like that? What's some of the big things you're doing there?
John, you can visit our website that's maintained regular. We got 800 numbers to all the different parks that we have besides Poverty Point. But yeah, we're doing all kinds of different programming. Any given weekend, you could find yourself flint knapping or basket weaving, and
a lot of educational programs, y'all. State parks, fantastic. Go out and support them in your own state, but especially come to Louisiana and support them. We're going to eat oysters. We're going to look at bowls. We're going to look at horse apples. Who knows what we're going to do, y'all. Time flies when you're having good fun with good friends in the kitchen. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. And make sure you join us again as we continue to look at great Taste of Louisiana. And you know what? Explore our fabulous food heritage. There's none better. Absolutely.
To purchase the Encyclopedia of Cajun and Creole Cuisine by Chef John Folse, featuring more than 750 traditional recipes, a CD-ROM of the book, or a copy of the program featuring all 3 episodes of Today's Culture, call the number on your screen. Major underwriting for A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse was provided by the Baton Rouge Convention and Visitors Bureau. In Baton Rouge, our past is your present. Baton Rouge, authentic Louisiana at every turn. And People's Drugstores, serving South Louisiana for generations. George and Shirley Picu are proud supporters of A Taste of Louisiana with Chef John Folse. And by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Our mission is to tell Louisiana's story to the world. And by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism.
Where you have this architecture, history, music,
And the bittersweet cry of the blues.
especially the blues.
There you go.
How about a dozen?
Red beans and rice.
We rolling, y'all.